flew open as I hawked up dirty air. My eyes burned just as much as my lungs, and I suddenly realized I wasn't dreaming anymore. I wasn't in a hospital bed. I was on the couch, and my lungs were working just fine. I reminded myself that I was good now. I was healthy. It had all been a twisted nightmare. It had been a long time since I'd had one of those. I thought I'd moved on from those recurring dreams where I was forced to relive my past reality, but evidently they still lurked in my subconscious. If it had just been a nightmare, though, why was I actually coughing and struggling to breathe? And why was I still hearing obnoxious beeping? That's when I realized the apartment was on fire, and not a small fire either. The smoke was thick enough to blind me, and it was unfathomably hot. The beeping came from the smoke detector screaming overhead. I shook my head in disbelief. Leave it to me to have a dream so close to reality I couldn't decipher between what was really happening and what was merely a figment of my imagination. It's like when you're sleeping and you have to pee. You dream about having to pee. Except this was worse. Much worse. I sprang up off the couch as I pulled my sweatshirt up to cover my nose and mouth. I needed to get out of there, fast. I couldn't see the door as I propelled my body forward, but I was blocked by a chair. Wait, I don't have a chair there. I gasped when I remembered I was in my neighbor's apartment, not my own. The rush of smoke down my throat made me gag. Eli. I had to get Eli. Ignoring the pain, I forced myself to cough out a scream. Eli? Where are you? I dashed toward his bedroom, but my lungs rebelled against the movement. This was not how I was going to die. I tried to lunge toward his bedroom again, but I became lightheaded and stumbled into a table. If I didn't get out in the next few seconds, I was fairly confident I'd lose consciousness. And then I'd be of no help to Eli at all. My gut wrenched as I turned away from the boy's bedroom and propelled myself toward the exit. If I could just get some air, I could go back for him. I cursed myself for not registering the smoke alarm sound sooner. I flung the door open and made it into the hallway, which was even smokier. Someone brushed past me, knocking me into the wall, but I forced myself to push forward toward the stairwell. My lungs screamed for air. After what felt like an eternity, I pushed open the stairwell door, and as it slammed behind me, the air mostly cleared. I took a satisfying breath as I bolted down the steps. The lack of oxygen had made my vision fuzzy, and I wobbled on my feet. I would need cleaner air in my lungs if I was going to make it back up for Eli. Being that we lived on the 10th floor, I had no doubt that I'd faint before I could get him out safely, but I was determined. If I could just make it down a couple of floors, I could inhale fresher air to clear out the smoke and stop myself from feeling so woozy. I made it to the 8th floor, pressed my back against the cool wall, and relished in the clean air. I told myself I'd take a few more breaths before heading back for Eli. Before I could move, 3 giant men in fire gear barreled up the stairs toward me. One of them stopped upon seeing me. "Are you all right, miss? Do you need help getting out?" I shook my head, as words were difficult, but relief flooded over me at the sight of him. And truthfully, I probably could have used his help, but it was more important to me that the men went up for Eli instead. "Get yourself out of here, then. Go." He continued his quest up the stairs, and I called after him, "There's the boy! Apartment 1005. I prayed that he'd heard me, and I told myself that they'd find Eli. I knew they would. They had to. That was their job, right? My legs carried me downward before I could even process the movement. I needed to get outside. The cold air slapped me in the face, and while the chill in my lungs had never felt so good before, I was fairly certain that I was on the verge of fainting. I was still struggling to see, and my legs threatened to give out at any second. There were 2 fire trucks and an ambulance in front of my building, and I could hear more off in the distance, getting louder. A man in a medic's uniform grabbed hold of my shoulders. "Ma'am, it's all right. You're okay now. You're safe." Tears stung my eyes. I was going to survive.
Chapter 2. Dylan. Whoosh, whish, whoosh, whish. I took a moment to remind myself to control my breathing. I'd just descended 9 floors of a Manhattan apartment building, and my self-controlled breathing apparatus, SCBA, had to last long enough to get me through the fire floor and back, at least. Smoke started to fill the stairwell,